It's alright.
Oh my god! Yo guys, what is up? Max on our Borderlands 3 video, and today is the day. Today, the new DLC comes out, the new skill trees are out, and alongside of it comes one of the biggest patches we have ever seen in Borderlands 3 history. We have huge character changes, we have changes to the way that action skills interact with anointments, and changes to so many weapons. We have a ton to dive into it, so we're gonna get right into it. Alright guys, so there's a lot to talk about here. I'm going to get through it as quickly and as concisely as I can. Now, as always, the link to the patch notes, if you want to read the whole thing, will be in the description. I'm not going to read small minor changes such as like some stability and memory issues and optimizations. Those are happening. There's a lot of them happening. Not going to read all those. Going to stick to the bigger talking points of this, and that starts us off with the new content, Designer's Cut. We're getting the Forest Skill Tree, Arms Race, and the Multiverse Final Form Cosmetics. Once again, that is a $14.99 expansion for free. Outside of that, we are getting Mayhem 11. Now, Mayhem 11 is Mayhem 10 without any modifiers. If Mayhem modifiers and re-rolling them annoyed you, Mayhem 11 is the answer. It's just Mayhem 10, same difficulty, just without any modifiers, which is really, really nice. However, your world drops and your iridium and cash drops are cut in half. Not that big of a deal, to be honest. And honestly, not getting as many world drops and still getting the same amount of dedicated drops means that Mayhem 11 might even be better for farming, especially when you're farming for dedicated drops. So really, really awesome addition there. Next up, we got anointments to support the forest skill tree. So, and part of this, which we'll be talking about a little bit more, is the removal of fake grasping. Fake grasping and fake bursting with Flak, basically using your action skill, looking at the ground or the air, or using your action skill at all to proc action skill and anointments no longer works. Now, this change has been active for a while. All of the Amara gameplay that I posted since I was playing on a beta version had this active. Not many people noticed because honestly, it's fine. The way that they did it is really, really good. So as an Amara main, I've played around with this a lot. For example, you just don't get anointments. Like the action skill and anointments don't proc from fake grasping. However, like for example, using the Phase Zerker to pre-stack up do harm stacks or rush stacks still works. Using the driver class mod and fake grasping the floor still gives you mindfulness. You still get to run around really fast, fake grasping with the driver. However, it doesn't proc action skill and anointments, which is a change for the better. It is a little weird, but I promise we're going to get used to it, and it's just a little bit more balanced. I love that they kept in the functionality of still being able to use driver to move around and fake grasp and still pre-stack Phase Zerker. However, you just aren't going to get those action skill and anointments until you actually use your action skill and actually activate it. And that changes. It also happened for Gamma Burst, so like fake Gamma Bursting into the air to proc like a bazillion Shield Novas no longer works. Overall, great change there. In addition to that, we got 14 new action skill damage anointments. Now, there's a lot of anointments being added. These action skill damage anointments have each individual damage for example, Iron Bear's grenade launcher, Iron Bear's flamethrower, Amara's phase cast, Amara's slam. So all of the action skills in the game are getting an anointment to buff the action skill damage if you want to make action skill damage focused builds. Next up, huge change here. We've been asking for this for so long. It's been a problem for so long. Removed Mayhem level gear from enemies. Enemies were doing Mayhem 10 damage. If the enemy spawned in with a gun, they had a chance to spawn in with a Mayhem 10 gun, and that was really annoying because you would get just like basically melted out of nowhere. That is gone, removed. The survivability of a lot of characters just improved a lot from that, which is really, really great. In the general section, there are also a bunch of like small little fixes to things that weren't working too great. Not going to mention every single one because there's a ton. There were some stability fixes as well. And then next we get to matchmaking. Now we got big changes to matchmaking that I think are going to improve it a lot. Added arms race matchmaking, so you can matchmake for that. They combined the trials and circles of slaughter into a single matchmaking pool. So if you want to do a slaughter shaft or you want to do a trial, those are going to be the same matchmaking pool. And addressed an issue where players matchmaking from a takedown map would be put into a separate matchmaking pool. So takedown matchmaking should be better as well. And the biggest change, they changed the matchmaking so you either pick to play on Mayhem mode or don't. Whoever is the host will dictate the level of the Mayhem mode, but when you matchmake now, instead of having to pick Mayhem 2, Mayhem 3, Mayhem 4, which completely divided the player pool, you will either pick if you were going to play with Mayhem mode on or off. Next up, oh boy, huge changes to Zane the Operative. They basically shuffled around a bunch of the skills and moved the middle tier skills to capstones and moved the capstones to the middle tier. So basically said our goals with these changes are to increase the skill tree build diversity as well as remove the reliance on one class mod for builds. We'll get to the Seeing Dead changes in a second because there were some. While making these changes, we determined that certain skills should be moved on their respective skill trees to a different position. So the Hitman tree, Zane's blue tree, Death Follows Close, which was a big kill skill increase, passive skill increase. They swapped that with Death Follows Close and Seeing Red. So now Death Follows Close is your capstone. Seeing Red is the middle skill. Seeing Red being that when you activate your action skill, you get all your kill skills. So that is huge. And they also added a kill skill bonus plus 15% to Seeing Red. Big change to Zane. And I will have like more in-depth videos on these changes and how Zane builds will change as well as my Zane builds. However, for now, we're just going to kind of keep going. Next up, the Undercover tree. This is the green tree. They swapped the mid-tier passive and the capstone skill. So Confident Competence, the skill that gave you accuracy and gun damage, whether your shields are being full, that is now the capstone. They also boosted or buffed the gun damage that Confident Competence gave, and Distributed Denial, the skill that gave your barrier your shield, is now the middle point. These are crazy changes, and I actually think they're really good, so super excited for them. Confident Competence is definitely going to be a better capstone, and the blue tree changes are also really good. And then we get our red tree changes. Now, given they say that they changed Duct Tape Mod because Duct Tape Mod was sometimes killing Zane if it procced. The Duct Tape Mod now grants Zane immunity to damage from his weapons and grenades. I don't know. I'm assuming that's it says immunity to damage from his weapons. I'm assuming you can't just shoot yourself in the foot with the back burner over and over again and never die. If you respect into Duct Tape Mod, I'm assuming it's just from the grenades that proc from it, but I'm not super sure about that. If you could just shoot yourself at the foot with a back burner and put 1 point in Duct Tape Mod, that's going to be crazy. That remains to be seen. Next up, class mod changes. The Infiltrator class mod, I'm going to read this out. I'm a little confused on it, so if you guys want to comment what you think this changes. It says rework the ability to allow the shield to refill before it is broken whenever an action skill is activated. Infiltrator breaks your shield when you activate your action skill. It says it allows the shield to refill before it is broken. I'm not exactly sure how that changes it, to be honest. And then next we have the I don't really understand that change too much. Next we have the Seeing Dead. Now the Seeing Dead reads, or they said, this class mod has been overperforming, so we've removed some of the power from the mod to counter the damage. The Seeing Red's passive skill within Zane's Hitman skill tree has been given a buff, effectively giving all players access to the additional damage without the requirement of using this class mod, and then lowered the kill skill damage bonus on the Seeing Dead. Seeing Dead is still going to proc your abilities or your kill skills when you shoot. However, it's not going to be getting that big kill skill damage increase. That'll be given to Seeing Red. So Seeing Dead still functions the same, but you do not need it to get all that same damage, really. Note one thing, that it doesn't look like Commitment was changed, so Seeing Dead Commitment interaction is still going to be really good. Next up, Amara. That's a change. We knew it was coming. I will read this out and then explain it in a second. Amara the Siren, certain types of damage were unintentionally being passed to other enemies caught in the Siren's phase grasp. This change prevents those reactions, but no other changes have been made to this skill. A previous hotfix did not address all the issues discovered, and this solution is a bit more robust, permanent solution. So there was a hotfix that basically nerfed damage that wasn't weapon or melee damage passing through enemies. That hotfix never worked. This is the permanent fix to it. Ties that bind will only pass weapon and melee damage to enemies. This is, if you're wondering like what that does, things that were going through ties was everything, such as using the Nova augment on Amara, and you could just phase grasp for over 1 billion damage consistently. This is pretty big nerf to Gamebreaker Amara. I think it's still going to be fine, but just so you guys know that a lot of the shenanigans that was going on with Ties That Bind won't go with Ties That Bind. It's still going to be probably Amara's strongest mobbing action skill, but there were some nerfs to it. I will have more in-depth videos on it when I get the chance to play around with it. Also, weapon anoints that increase weapon or melee damage after phase slam now properly increase damage. Good change. And also updated the Muse class mod to prevent double dipping on damage modifiers. Muse was doing some decent damage. I didn't think it was too strong, but apparently there's some double dipping going on that it will no longer double dip on. So good stuff to know. And then next we have Flak the Beastmaster. Pets will now receive damage buffs from the Global Grenade Anointment. Global Grenade Anointment, I believe, being the on-grenade throw anointment. Pets now get a buff from that. That's awesome. And they also address the reported concern that when dealing critical hits in rapid succession while using Rack Attack action skill and head count passive, Rack Attack charges would not be gained properly, and the cooldown timer was reset. This has been a problem for a really long time. Hopefully now it is finally no longer a problem. Now, one thing that isn't noted here is the dominance change. I believe the dominance change, maybe they just forgot to put it in, but dominance was changed. Dominance basically now gives the passive of Red Fang. So if you spec into dominance, you can shoot enemies. They will become allies, and all of the enemies around them target that ally. Basically, if you spec dominance, no enemies will shoot at you because you're constantly be critting enemies and constantly be making enemies onto your team. You can only have one enemy at a time. If that change wasn't removed, I'll have something in the pinned comment that never actually happened. But in the beta version we've been playing, dominance was changed. Next up, Echocast update. They got support for the arms race, Echocast for 4 skill trees, next gen consoles. And one of the biggest thing that's super, super cool is when watching a streamer using the Echocast during arms race, the inventory, skill trees, and guardian rank tabs are hidden. The rare chest event is also deactivated and replaced with the extractor breach event. Now, this extractor breach event is super, super cool. Basically, what happens if I get a bunch of like god roll loot, or if I get loot while playing arms race, when I go to the extractor, when I'm extracting my loot, it'll trigger an Echocast event that will allow the viewers who are watching to get the gear that I'm extracting, which is extremely awesome. So if you're playing arms race or just watching streams, you can farm gear and get the gear that streamers are getting, which is really, really nice. Next up, because there's even more stuff. God damn. They enabled purple E-Tech pistols to drop in game. Maybe is that new? I don't know if that's completely new. Purple E-Tech pistols. That's cool. Increase the resolution of the images on Zero's bounty board in Sanctuary, and then we get to the weapon adjustments. And there were a ton of weapon adjustments. We have a ton of buffs to a ton of weapons. I'm just going to read them off because I don't have the specific damage value increases, but we do have a ton of buffs here. The phaser gets increased weapon damage. The ion laser is getting increased weapon damage and increased the number of projectiles that are released when the laser stops. The shredifier is getting increased weapon damage. The Trevinator is getting increased weapon damage. The Tunguska is getting increased weapon damage. Link, increased weapon damage. Rebel Yell, increased weapon damage. Hornet, increased weapon damage and splash damage radius. Nemesis, increased weapon damage. And Flacker, increased weapon damage. Whew. Guys, that is it for all of the things that were changed. So many changes to mess around with, especially in Zane's new tree, Amara's changes, and changes to these new anointments and new weapons. On top of that, we have new skill trees to mess around with and new gear. There's going to be so much Borderlands to be played. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something new. If you did, be sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace! I was putting